All right. MicroStrategy, tariffs, Bitcoin. Here's what you really need to know right now. So, here is the real story of the day. The markets are a mess right now. Inflation data came in, and the CPI was down about 0.1% in March. Year to date, it's or year over year, it's up 2.4%. So, it didn't matter, or I should say, year over year is 2.4%. So it didn't matter. And normally this would actually rally the markets because of the indicators that just came in, but instead stocks are tanking. Now, why? It's no secret we have tariffs as the story of the day, and nobody's really paying attention to what's really going on because we have the tariffs that are literally overtaking the headlines. Trump has a 10% blanket tariff, and that went live, as you heard the other day on the video that I just released. Then he dropped the hammer on China, as you heard the other day, with a 145% total tariff that's in. It's 125% new tariff, and then there's a 20% fentanyl-related tariff as well. And the global market has freaked. And we saw about $5.4 trillion that was wiped out of the U.S. equities in about 2 days. So lots of chaos going on in the markets, as we know, but there's also a silver lining in all of this as well. Bitcoin took a hit. If you've been watching it today, went down below 80,000. Right now it's hovering above 80,000. And it's also had its worst quarter in about a decade, down nearly 12% this quarter. So people started panicking quite a bit. And we've seen this for the last couple of weeks, but there is a silver lining, so pay attention. Peter Schiff came in, and if you know Peter Schiff, he's a gold bug, and him and Saylor have been having their wars for the last 4 or 5 years, or I should say their back and forth banter. And he's been mocking Saylor on X, and he said this. He says, if you want to stop Bitcoin from crashing below your average buy price, better go all in today with borrowed money, end quote. All right, but we all know that Saylor does not flinch. And so the good news about all of this, to recap the positivity that's been lost in the tariffs, is we know MicroStrategy, obviously branded as Strategy, has continued to double down. And we know the news that in late March, they added 22,000 Bitcoin for $1.92 billion. And their total holdings are $528 billion. And they've got about $43 billion in Bitcoin. So the tariffs can hit, the news can come all at once. Peter Schiff can knock on Saylor's door and, try and prod him into conversations and shake him. But Saylor to me is unshakable. So even with the markets being scared over the last 2 months, Strategy also added another $850 million in preferred stock to raise more capital, obviously, to buy Bitcoin. And they continue to do that. So they have many ways to buy Bitcoin. Strategy is not over leveraged on their preferred stock. You've probably heard the headlines many times in the last month or two, but they pay about a 10% annual dividend. And if they miss payments, it jumps up to about 18%. So they're very serious about making the payments, and I think they're good for it. So while a lot of people have been selling, Strategy continues to stack. So whatever's happening with the tariffs, whatever's happening with Schiff going after Saylor, if you see it on X, whatever's happening with the uncertainty, just look at what Strategy is doing. They continue to stay the course, and that is good news. So what's really happening with the tariffs? Let's dive in a little bit. Sure, there's unfair trade, and we know that's been a conversation that's been going on behind the scenes, under the hood, and it's about bringing manufacturing back into the United States, so bringing it onshore. And the main reason is America is very dependent on China, and mainly for just basic supplies. So we import about 90% of our antibiotics and 80% of other ingredients for our meds. We barely produce semiconductors anymore. Only 12% of the global chips are made in the US. That's down from about 37% in the 90s. So that's a big change and a shift. And that's one of the reasons why you see Trump wanting to bring jobs back to America, factories back to America. China's dominating in the rare earth mineral department, copper, battery components, all stuff we need to function to defend ourselves. So that's obviously important. And if China cuts us off, it's not good. So that's why Trump's doing what he's doing, and that's why he's going aggressively with the tariffs. If you didn't watch my previous videos, we know there's been a 90-day pause on the tariffs, and that brought good news to the markets. We also know that that brought MicroStrategy up a couple days ago. It was up 25% in a day, and it went over 300. And now it's back down. It closed today at 272, and now after hours it's about 277. So, we're looking at a reset that's going on. It's forcing companies to come home. You can call it economic nationalism. You can call it defense. Either way, it's definitely happening. We know Trump is not backing off, but the 90-day pause has been very, very good news for the markets. And what does this all mean for Bitcoin and strategy? Number one, not financial advice at all, but here's the deal. All this uncertainty, from my viewpoint, is good, even though the market hates it. And one of the things that's happening right now is the dollar is down nearly 8% year to date. And, that also has an impact on what's going on because of the tariffs are dropping. People's have more fear about what's happening in the United States and more fear globally. And so, the dollar has dropped, but the long-term winners in uncertain times like this are Bitcoin. And Bitcoin will be one of them. And so we're only a few short months away, in my opinion, to see the Fed cut the rates. And when that happens, that's going to be really, really good for Bitcoin. And so Strategy, which is the biggest corporate holder of Bitcoin with 528,000 Bitcoin, that's great news for Strategy. When Bitcoin runs, we know Strategy runs. Bitcoin popped up 9.4% or 9.5% the other day with the news of the pause on the tariffs, and Strategy boomed up 25%. So that's a big jump. And we saw the S&P 500. It jumped up, I think its single biggest jump a couple days ago since, I think, 1940 or something like that. Or it might have been its third biggest jump, I should say. So, there's talk of people calling for a recession. Energy prices are down. Oil prices are down. GDP forecasts are being slashed in terms of gross domestic product because of the trade wars. But if the Fed steps in and they start cutting rates to stabilize the market, which we think is going to happen, that's rocket fuel for Bitcoin. And that's great news. So it's on the horizon. It's going to happen. And as Bitcoin moves, we know that Strategy moves, and recent analyst price targets have maintained the same in terms of the analysts that I've been looking at. Their price target for Strategy is 513. I saw another price target from an analyst today at 700 for Strategy. And TD Cowen, they reaffirmed their buy rating and sees even more upside potential due to the recent fundraising that we heard with the $722 million that they raised to buy Bitcoin weeks ago. So those are the facts. And the bottom line is, even though the tariffs are messy and the markets are really shaky, when the Fed steps in, you're going to see a rocket ship with Bitcoin. That's my prediction, not financial advice. And we're watching this whole reset of the supply chain in all across the globe right now. And in the middle of this mess, we're holding Bitcoin, or if you're holding Strategy, you're just waiting for it to pop. You're waiting for it to happen. And, despite all the news, we're kind of teetering on the edge here. And the goal is for this thing to go parabolic and go through the roof in 2025 and 2026. So I'm still bullish. And at some point, this sucker's going to rip. And my price predictions are still what they are. I personally believe we're going to go beyond 700. And in terms of MSTR price, it's just my opinion, just my thought. I could be completely wrong, but that's what I'm planning on for my investing. And so I hope this serves you guys. And the bottom line is, in times like this, you want to hang tough, and you want to just stick with your guns and not get lost in the news of, hey, Robert, what's going on? We got Jung Lee here as well. Robert's asking, what should a guy do with MSTU? Not financial advice on this, but I can just personally tell you, for me with MSTU, I'm not selling, and I'm holding on to it, and I'm going to let it go and let it ride. So, and MSTR, of course, I'm holding, and Bitcoin, of course, I'm holding. So, these are the levels of, I bought a little bit more the other day, and then I traded out of it. So I do a little short-term trading on this stuff. But my majority position of MSTU, which is 99% of my MSTU position, I'm holding. MSTR still is my largest position, Bitcoin my second largest position, and then I have some MSTU as well. So we're looking at some turbulent times. If you didn't watch my tariff video the other day, go in the video section, go watch it. It's pretty good. It just really talks about what's happening with the tariffs, and just gives a history of it so people can understand it. And there were also questions about the difference between tariffs, where we have a trade deficit, and where goods we have a trade deficit, and services we have a trade surplus. And I answered those questions in that video as well. But Robert's like, I'm down 70%. I totally understand. I completely understand on is that MSTU, Robert? Yeah, I completely understand on MSTU, and some of my new buys on MSTU are down heavily as well. So as you know, I got in earlier on it, but some of my recent buys where I bought MSTU like a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago it was at this point. But I bought it when it was at $8 and $7.40, and right now it's $4.20. So when this sucker goes up, it goes up, and you've seen how it moves. The other day it moved up 50% or 45% when MSTR moved up 25%. So anyway, those are highly leveraged positions in these types of stuff like MSTU. If you're new to investing, I'm not recommending anything. I'm just saying get educated on stuff like that. It's very risky, but I like to take some leverage and risk with things that I do. But anyway, I look at Bitcoin as my safe haven. I keep a bunch of dough there. MSTR, I'm waiting for it to moon in this run, and so I held my largest position there just because I bought it in early 2024. Pretty much in February 2024, I started buying heavy on MSTR. So my position's way up in MSTR, and it's larger than Bitcoin because it just went up so much higher than Bitcoin. So there you have it. But anyway, I hope this serves you guys. And if you have any other questions, Westchester says, I'm down 80% on MSTX, down 40% on MSU. It will go back eventually. Yeah, I believe it will. So I believe that those positions with MSU will go back up. And I believe in the fundamentals of what's going on with Bitcoin. I just believe in the fundamentals. I believe in the fundamentals of what MSTR continues to do, which is buy. So Sailor Kid continues to buy Bitcoin, and he's going to continue to do it. So I wouldn't be surprised if we have some buys coming out soon from him. So that's the story. And the tariffs are obviously shaking people, but we're in April now. Trump's having the negotiations. Last I heard was yesterday, in terms of my research, 15 countries have already submitted the deals that they want. 70 have written in to say, hey, we want to do a deal. And so, we're really looking at China that's just isolated on their end and what's going on with them. And I just think that Trump's going to do some deals, and the more deals he does, the better the news is going to get. And we know the Fed's going to cut their interest rates. They just tend to lag a bit, and they tend to just move a little bit slower on things. And I think Trump's pushing them, but he doesn't really have control over what they do. But certainly with him hitting countries with tariffs and making the markets uncertain, you better believe that the Fed's obviously thinking about it. So June, let's see. I can't imagine we don't get an interest rate cut in June. And then we're going to get multiple throughout the rest of the year in 2026. And that's super, super, super good for Bitcoin. Simplicity of it is really easy. Interest rates go down. Cash flow frees up because people's debt in terms of their interest rate that they pay, frees up more cash flow. So if I'm paying a lower interest rate on a loan, I have more cash flow. You know, if all of a sudden it goes down from, you know, X to Y, and my payments on my debt are less, my payments on my house are less, my payments on money that I want to borrow to grow my business is less, and I got more free cash flow in my pocket to invest. And that means people all over the country will have more free cash flow, and more free cash flow means what? People want to invest because they have liquidity and they put it in the markets. So that's what's going on, or that's what will be going on. So hang tough, and you know, this is the time to just hold strong, is my personal point of view on it. So I hope you guys are doing great. We are at 81K. Is that where we're at right now, Chris? 81K. I think you know, the dollar is weakening, and I think that's we're going to see as the dollar it goes down. You know, Bitcoin's going to go up. So there you have it. All right. And yeah, Dave, MSTU is only available in the USA. All I can say on those leverage type plays, they are designed for short-term holding. Do your research, and you have to have a cast iron stomach if you're in stuff like that. Okay. So my philosophy is Bitcoin amazing, MicroStrategy amazing. These leverage things that have been created are a lot of fun when they go up, but if they go down, you're going to lose a lot of money. So be very, very careful and do your research on these things. Okay. Again, my personal risk tolerance is high, and but I'm also not stupid with it. I also have the great majority of my portfolio in Bitcoin and MicroStrategy, and a smaller percentage in MSTU. All right. So, and then I hold a little bit of Tesla on leverage. So I hope you guys are doing great, and I'll be back. My plan is to be back on tomorrow and just dive in and really figure out what else is going on. If you haven't watched our video, I'd love to get your feedback. Please go. We edited it, and go into the video section. I think it's called, let me go look right now, because I'd love to get your input, because I typically go live, and then I want to create like a cool produced video for you guys. But when I put it in the video section, it doesn't get as much views versus going live. And I don't know the name of it. I think it's the one where the thumbnail says Trump versus China. So I think that's the one. So if you would be so kind to go, I think it's really cool. It's got great music, and the intro's cool, and give me your feedback on it, and leave something in the comments of like, here's what you liked about it, here's what you didn't like. And because my plan is to do a couple like highly produced videos a week where I really dive in and give you the global perspective of what's going on. And then other times I'm just going to pop in live and just give you updates on MSTR and what I think's happening in the markets, and just give you my point of view. So if you would go do me a favor and give me your thoughts, so I can continue to produce better stuff for you guys, that would be much appreciated. Okay. And I hope you're having a fantastic night. I just got back from a really cool event called Writers of the Future, which is a cool event, a bunch of authors there. It's a lot of fun. And somebody's asking, do you own any solo Bitcoin? I don't own any solo Bitcoin miners at home, Chris, to answer your question. Yeah, I don't own any of that. So no miners. I don't own anything. Like, I haven't bought any stock in any mining companies at all. I stick with the things that I'm like, I find a couple things that I really know and I'm really passionate about, and I just relentlessly get educated on it and study it and go all in. And so for Bitcoin, I've been in case you're just joining us, I've been in Bitcoin since 2018, was when I first bought into Bitcoin. And then I first started getting into MicroStrategy, MSTR, or strategy in 2020. And I bought my first shares then, but then I didn't have the stomach to hold. So I sold my MicroStrategy shares in 2020. And then I bought back into strategy in 2024 of February, before the stock split. Okay. So my whole thing with how I watch strategy and how I watch Bitcoin, particularly strategy, is I just watch how it moves. And so I've watched it and observed it like heavily for the last year and a half. And then I've been following Saylor since 2020 heavily. And so I've watched how the stock moves, and it's not uncommon for it to move the way that it moves right now. If you guys remember, and you were in strategy back in 2024, and I can't remember what the exact date was, but if you remember before the stock split, it ran up to 2,000, and then it dropped down to 1,000, and I think it dropped down a little bit below 1,000. So if you look at what just happened recently, it went up to 540. So if you do 2,000 to 1,000, it's a 50% drop. So I think we had about a 50 something percent drop in 2024. And then you remember the stock ran all the way up to 540, I believe, after hours, or 550. After hours was its height. And now its low has been in the 220s. And right now it's at 277, 278. If you look after hours, I don't know if you guys check stuff after hours, but Robinhood's a great place to check after hours, and Strategy's now at 282. So we closed at 272, and after hours is up 3.7% right now. So point being is in 2024, I remember when it dropped and then it chopped forever. And then it shot back up right around October, November, and it shot back up. And so with that in particular, it shot back up to 540, and then it dropped down now to where it's 280. So it's not quite down 50% from the 540 mark, but 40 something percent. So and this is the chopping range of what it did in 2024, like mid 2024, and it chopped for a while. And that was probably early 2024, and then it chopped for a while, and then it ran up during election time. And now we're going through a very similar chop. So my expectation is when it hits again is for it to hit. And for me, a hit on this stock is at least a double. And the real hit that I'm looking for on this thing is a triple. Okay. And my bullish is a quadruple. So do I know the future? No. You see the analysts that I just talked about are looking for predicting a 513. That comes from 10 different analysts. So I think that's the aggregate of all of them together at 513. But I think we're going to go higher than that. And so, and then you think about what your Bitcoin price is going to be. So whatever you believe Bitcoin is going to be. And at this point, there's so much uncertainty because the tariffs are just literally like blinding everybody to anything good that's going on and anything good that's happened in the last month or 2 months. So I think it's important to zoom out and look at, we still do have the strategic Bitcoin reserve, and we still have a pro crypto administration. And, there's news coming out with the ETFs where Solana is about to get approved in an ETF, which is big news, even though Solana is way down. So there's all this great stuff coming out, but people can't see it because it's just smearing the headlines with tariffs. And ultimately, we're going to come out of this. And when we do, I think it's going to be it's being held down. I think it's just going to be a rip up. And I can't see that won't happen in 2025 and 2026. I just can't see a world where that's not going to happen. So I maintain long-term just extreme bullishness that this is going to happen. And in the short term, I'm like anybody else. You wake up and you don't know what the hell is going to happen with the tariffs or how countries are going to respond. And even the fundamentals have gotten thrown out of the window because you'd expect right now for us to be ripping. So it's a new world. It's just a new world. And it became a new world with Trump taking office. It became a new world with a strategic Bitcoin reserve. It became a new world when corporations started buying Bitcoin. It became a new world when Strategy now has 4 different ways to buy Bitcoin: common stock, convertible notes, Strife, 2 different types of preferred stock. I mean, what are they going to come out with next? So this is a new world. And so whatever the patterns were of the last bull markets, they're gone. I mean, because we're not in that pattern right now. We're just not. So, but I can, if you look at the previous bull markets, I remember buying Bitcoin in 2019. I bought 2018, my first Bitcoin, and it was around 3,000. And then I remember calling my brother in 2019. I'm like, dude, like I just see something's going to happen on this. If Bitcoin was at $7,000, this thing's going to go, man. I just know this thing's going to go. So my brother and I loaded up and we just kept buying. And if you remember going through that bull run at 69,000 or whatever it topped out at, that was the top. So the previous bull run before that, the top was at like 20. So we went from that top of 20 to the top of 69,000. And that's like a 3.5x. And many analysts think that we should have gone higher than 69,000 in the last bull run. So what? We were in a 3.5x from the prior bull run. So do you really think that like we're going to end off at like 69,000 was the last top of the last bull run and we're going to end at 80? Like, no. And even if your belief is like, okay, we're only going to double from the last top, like we 3.5x from the previous top in 2018 when we hit 2020, one bull run. And then, it's now 2025. Are we really going to go from 69,000 to 80 and that's just going to be the top? Like, could you see that? So just logic of like, are we going to have a 13% up bull run? Is that going to be where we end? No. So, because I don't think we hit it yet. And so I gotta believe that like we're a 2x from here. That's what I see on Bitcoin. So for a 2x from here on Bitcoin, what happens with strategy? Strategy could be what? Strategy could be a 4x. And at a minimum, I think strategy would be then a 3x. Right? So if Bitcoin doubles, strategy is going to be at least 3x. So if you think Bitcoin is going to get to 160, then take 3x of strategy right now, which is 280. And what is that? What's 3x of 280? It's 246. It's 840. And then if the MNAV of strategy goes back to where it should be, which is 2, it means that it trades at a premium. The MNAV is 2. M means market, NAV means net asset value, and then premium. And to break that down, the market, and so the net asset value of Strategy's Bitcoin holdings. So when you look at the net asset value, it's what they used. They borrowed money to buy Bitcoin, and so what's the net asset value of their Bitcoin? And so typically the stock will trade at a premium to the net asset value, and that's what it's been doing all year. And so on average, it's around 2. It's not trading at 2 right now, but on average, it's 2. So it trades at 2x to what Bitcoin is. So, I think it's going to be, if Bitcoin doubles, I think it's going to 4x strategy. And I think at a conservative nature, if Bitcoin doubles, it's going to 3x. So if you think Bitcoin's going to get to 160, take 3x of strategy from here. If you think Bitcoin's only going to get to 140, then adjust your math. Does that make sense? Do I think strategy would hit like a 4? Its MNAV would be like the premium would be a 4? No, it did hit 4 in 2024. Yeah. Do I think it could be a 3? Yeah, it could. Do I think it's more likely that it's at a 2? Yeah. If you look right now, it's probably at a 1.6 or whatever the MNAV right now. I haven't looked. The last date I had it was around 1.6-ish, 1.7-ish. So will we get it back above 2 as we start to run? I believe so. And so do the math. And that's how I'm making my decisions and looking at the future. It's like, okay, what do I think Bitcoin's going to get at? And if Bitcoin's going to double, then I know strategy is going to triple. That's just my basic, solid decision making. If Bitcoin doubles, does strategy have a chance to quadruple? I'm like, yeah, it does. So if strategy quadrupled, then what would happen? Okay. But is that more of like a very, very bullish case scenario where like I could see like Bitcoin doubles and then strategy, you know, goes up 4x, that would be a very bullish scenario. But do I think a 3x is reasonable? I do. I think a 3x for strategy is likely from here. So that's 840. So anyway, that's what I think. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? You know? And yeah, so the ecology is saying that it continues to be less and less risky to buy Bitcoin regardless of price moving forward. Yeah, it's just interesting. It's like when I look at my Bitcoin portfolio, I have so much less attention on that. Most of my attention's on strategy because it moves so differently, you know? And it's so much more volatile, but also that's why I'm in it. So when we move off to the new planet and the new rocket ship, and we go vertical, the gains are sick, you know? So let's see what happens. But in 2024, the NAV premium was 2, 3, and even as high as 4. So, and that's when strategy was just mooning like crazy. Okay. I think 4 is a little excessive on it, but we'll see what happens. Okay. So that's how I'm looking at it. That's how I'm basing my decisions. And I'm just looking at it very simply. What's Bitcoin going to do? What does strategy typically do in relation to Bitcoin? And then I got my targets for when I may take some profits. But again, I don't know my exact profit taking area right now because I have to see what's going to happen with the markets. And you know, once the tariff thing cools down, which I think we will see a cool down in the next 90 days for sure, because I think negotiations will be made. And then I think within that 90 days, we're going to see a Fed rate cut. And when that happens and the tariffs cool down, what do you think is going to happen? I don't think we could get hit with any more shocking news, right? Like, I don't know what else is going to come that's going to stop this bull run. Like at this point, let's get through the tariffs. Let's get the interest rates cut, and let's get what we've got coming to us, which we earned, right? Staying in this and holding tight, we've earned this. So, you know, you got to do what's best for your portfolio. Everybody's financial situation is different. I'm not giving anybody financial advice, tax advice, legal advice. But when this sucker moons, it's going to be a big party and a pat on the back, because anybody who's held and has gone through it and has had the stomach to go through the risk appetite of it deserves a big, 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 big payday. So I hope it works out for everybody. Okay. Stay well and have a phenomenal night. And I'm going to go get some rest. It's 11:30 on the West Coast. Okay. Stay well, my friends.